What's up? See who we got in here tonight. I'm learning how to do the YouTubing live as we go, building this plane as we fly. All right. All right, so what are we going to do today? We're going to hack some stuff. No, we're going to climb through the spam box, see if there are any cool phishing emails. We'll look at them, do some research into who they are, and see if we can tie it back to the threat actor. While we do that, we'll answer any questions that pop up in chat as well. And yeah, it'll be a good time. Let's rock and roll. So I have Kali open over here, and I'll share it here so we can poke and prod stuff. So over here we have Kali. Everyone should be pretty familiar with what this is. And on another screen, I have a spam box. And yeah, we'll dig into what it looks like. So this one I found earlier is something to do with Ethereum. So it's a crypto coin. And it is looks like spam to me because it says I have a recent pending transaction, and yeah, definitely they'll have one of those. So we will give it a look. There's got to be something half decent in here. And just take a picture of the image, and then I'll copy everything over so you don't see my desktop at the moment. But yeah, cryptocurrency or crypto phishing type things have been pretty common. It's taking forever. There we go. All right, let's give this copy over. So this is what it looks like. Basically, how much I have received or transacted in the particular block. So not anything crazy. Pretty normal looking if I was doing a lot of crypto, which I don't really do. It does look pretty normal. You can imagine this being like a phone bill or some sort of utility bill. Hey, Philip. Good to see you too. Just doing some looking through the spam box, man. Got some Ethereum transactions someone sent me, so we're going to play with that and see if we can tie it back to a particular threat group. So this is what it looks like. We can hover over the actual link and grab that from it. So this is what the actual link says. In these things, you can actually see quite a few different links sometimes. So we can take a peek at the who sent it, and this would be this guy, this email. Support at sharkmass.com. It's pretty common for an adversary to use fairly normal looking domains. It just helps it blend in more. Not saying the web domains common per se, but I would say the actual link looks fairly normal. It doesn't look particularly suspect, which is good. A lot of times what they'll do too, and not just for this type of thing, but malware in general, the C2 will utilize what we call age domains. So domains that may have been owned in the past and then just someone gave up the domain name and then someone else would buy it and it's already aged in a lot of the security tools. So they can utilize that and it'll bypass a lot of other security a lot of security tools where they look for new domains doing stuff and that automatically trigger an alert where it'll be put into the spam box or dropped. So nothing too crazy here. Yeah, I think that's all the links. Let me view the page source code here and see if there's anything else interesting. Can you hear me all right, Philip? So yeah, I don't really see much else. I pulled down the I did pull down the actual source for the email here. It is basically encoded, nothing crazy, but I do notice at the top, I see via Amazon's, which is kind of interesting. I'll post it here. I've never seen that particular domain, but that could be them trying to appear as Amazon. It's pretty funny, actually. Cool. Amazon's is. But one of the things we can do is we can look up all these domains and malware bazaar like VirusTotal. VirusTotal's pretty common, I would say. Let's see if I have my proxy on. Hopefully not. I do have my proxy on. Let me turn that off. Oops. Oh, no, it's under networking. There you go. Just turn off proxy. I had it on just in case I wanted to use Burp Suite for something, which we still might. You can see some of the stuff from my one of my offensive security courses I was working on. All right, so let's check out the first one here. See if we can, we'll do the full path, see if it comes back as anything. A lot of times what you'll see on these, where people have submitted these, and it'll give you a sandbox analysis of it where they'll go to it and see if they can pull anything back or see if it does anything funky. And that's pretty cool to check out. Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, I've never messed with that either. F5 has some good stuff. It's funny how a lot of these tools don't do some of the basic stuff. So, for instance, I was chatting with a client and they keep getting hit. Just the external, all the external resources just keep getting pounded by various things. And what was interesting to me is that anytime I throw up a website that is 100% public, I always do a abuse type program on there, and it will auto ban. I think that's actually what it's called, auto ban, and it'll automatically ban people who repeatedly do things. But a lot of tools don't have that in place, and it's just something so simple because these websites are getting just beat up. I mean, if you look at any web application, it probably gets hit, I don't know, tens of thousands of times a day, if not more, especially the bigger ones. And with autoban, you get something and it's hit you like you can set the threshold like 10 times, ban it for 30 minutes, and then that'll just reduce the amount of abuse you're getting, and then of course make it much more difficult for an adversary to get you. They have to really want to. Of course, there's ways around it. You could build something that splits traffic up across multiple IP addresses, and things like that. But it definitely makes it more difficult. So those script kiddies and lower skilled hackers have a tougher time messing with you. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, more than a DAS guy. DAS can't be too fun for too long. It's not my cup of tea. That's for sure. Definitely needed though. All these different things are needed. Compliance is needed. All that stuff's needed. Doesn't mean it's fun, but it's needed. So we can look. So this one's getting a 403, which is kind of interesting, and we can see when it was submitted. Get the IP address information here. So some basic stuff, Lightspeed server, some basic things about it. It didn't really give us much about the domain here. Let's see if there's anything on the community. Nope. But we can take the domain and drop it in. Oh, we could do it this way too. We'll check out the certificate information or anything else related to it. So Let's Encrypt. Let's Encrypt is a pretty interesting one. That's basically a self-signed certificate in a sense. It's not self-signed per se, but it's a free certificate, and a lot of people use those. One thing that's interesting, though, is that it is a Let's Encrypt versus like a certificate from a well-established organization. That's definitely something that's kind of sketchy, even though we haven't seen any hint that it was sketchy yet. But one thing that is interesting that a lot of people don't think about in here are these alternative names. So we get a lot of subdomains related to this particular domain. And what this does, from a bad guy perspective, if we're playing the bad guy for a bad guy here, we're able to easily map out some of their infrastructure just by looking for alternative names, things that are in the certificate. So we see mail dot is pretty common, but web disk isn't necessarily common. And cPanel isn't necessarily common as well, or either. So those are pretty interesting there. And let's see if we see anything else in here interesting. MacBook repair, that's fun. So we do want to be careful navigating to these and make sure, I would say make sure you don't have anything in your browser that you care about, such as cookies, if you play with this stuff, just in case there's an issue where they can be accessed and forwarded or anything like that. So what I'll do is there's a website called URL Scan. So I'll typically use that to go to the site first. And I also happen to be in a VM that I don't care about. So there's nothing in here that anyone can get. You just want to limit the chance that you're going to compromise yourself when you do stuff. That's kind of the idea. just because you don't think it's possible doesn't mean it is. I've learned that by now. There's lots of funky things you can do. Browsers always there's always some sort of vulnerability in the browsers. So now, back in the day, they used to not have sandboxes where things, whenever you do stuff, they're isolated to that particular instance of, say, the tab. But there are things just like with containers and VMs, there are escapes from those environments that allow them to get to the underlying host. So those are things we want to be concerned about. But anytime we play with malware or potentially malicious things. So this is kind of interesting that the account is suspended when we go to it. Certificate was issued back in December. It goes back to Germany. Those are kind of interesting. Things I would look at too generally are redirects. This font awesome stuff isn't necessarily particularly interesting because a lot of websites are using that. But we do want to look for interesting behaviors. So we can look at the DOM. This is where a lot of information is stored typically about a site. And we might find things in here that could be useful. So they have webmaster here. Nothing really abnormal on this. But what's interesting with a lot of C2 infrastructure, like if this was a C2, we don't know much about it at the moment, is that they could check various aspects of the actual request itself. So various pieces of it and say, hey, if it doesn't have this particular thing, we won't redirect it to the appropriate site to pull the download. And that's a way to keep things like this, a security tool, from navigating and finding the actual malicious payload. And they typically also do multiple layers, and they put the most effort into the furthest back layer. And that's where things actually talk to, most of like the final payload talks to. And the other things are kind of ephemeral in a sense where they may only last for an hour or a few hours or a couple of days before the domain's changed, the IP address has changed, something has changed. And it just makes it more difficult for the good guys to track this stuff down. What we can also do is see if we can go to just the normal domain and see if it does anything. Let's see. I want to scan. How do we get back to the scan? Where's it at? On the wrong page. There we go. This is one of the things I would use when I worked in the SOC to go back and research stuff. If you're in a government agency or a company that is very particular about protecting attribution, meaning where the research is coming from, you may use this, you may not, depending on whether or not you think this domain would be unique to you as a targeted victim. Because you don't want to, as a good guy, you don't want a bad guy to be able to track back that you're onto them in a lot of cases. So a lot of times you'll see where organizations don't submit payloads or URLs to stuff on the internet like this, and they'll have private repositories and private tools for that particular reason. So it looks like it's basically the same information we were getting before. So nothing new here, which is interesting. So let's take a peek at one of these other ones and see if it does, if it gives us any more information. Oops. Of course, that won't be in there. Amazon's this. I really hope this comes back. Community score gives it a negative. And that doesn't necessarily mean anything per se, but it could be some sort of indicator that it's suspicious. You can see some information about popularity. Let's see if we get any more. So this is a issuer is Amazon. That's interesting. Admin organization, Amazon Technologies. We can see here that there's some phishing results down here linking back to this, which is pretty interesting. Because like, look at all the information here. It's signed. It's ties back to Amazon.com. So it's pretty interesting in itself. And we can see here, these are just files that are tied back to this particular domain, phishing files, Scotiabank, that's fun. Just different things that are interesting. But we don't see ours. So it could also have occurred that the link did work before and now it no longer works because it's so old. This is actually from December 19, so the domain may have disappeared by now, where it's not working. It doesn't look like there are any parameters that go with this link, so we're not missing anything. We should have got something from it. And this was created 14 years ago as well. That's fun. So it did a pretty good job aging this and making it look fairly normal. Let's check out this last domain and see if it's anything fun. So this is a top 1 million. That's interesting. So these all look clean. Details. Got some less encrypt, some more prestigious certificates here versus what we saw in the first one. This is out of India. Interesting. A lot of this type of stuff comes from India, Russia, places like that. Cool. Now I really want to figure out this guy. So this looks like, well, this is even a top 1 million. That's interesting. My guess would be that this would be the first level in a C2 kind of chain, just based off of what's going on here. So let's copy this. Let's just go play with it, see what we got. It could be where like the count is legitimately suspended. Background image, nothing here. We could also check out some of the other information in here from the certificate that it was tied to. See if it resolves. It's the same thing. Good. Nope, cPanel still up. That's fun. Let's check out web disk. Yep, that responds. So all these are actually up. What we can also check out is, what is the name of it? Trying to think of the name of the tool I would typically use for this. It's the end of the workday. My brain is fried. What is it? What is it? What is it? Shodan. Why is my brain not working? Shodan. Shodan's what I wanted. Yeah, man. Do you, Philip? I'm just digging into this domain, seeing if we can get any cool details about it. Huh. Didn't show up in Shodan. That's interesting. We can also check Wayback Machine. I think it got changed though. It's now something else like Internet Archive. Yeah. You can see what it used to look like. No, we want the full address, and we'll see if it used to have something else there. So Wayback Machine is cool in that it'll usually crawl through the internet and archive a lot of sites. And so you can get a historical perspective of what was on the site if it happened to be archived at the time. So here, these are all snapshots of these different things. So we can go, let's see, I got this email on the 19th. So we can look at the December 16th snapshot, see if there's anything cool. Looks like it's the same stuff here. And what's interesting is there could be some forwarding going on in changes, where it's trying to validate. It could be validating. I've seen where it's looking at the particular browser version and it's only attempting to attack if it is something that's vulnerable. We've seen that before. It could be looking for a particular country. It could be looking for all kind of stuff in the request itself. And if it's not there, it could be sending us here instead. So we can play around with the content of what we're sending it with a proxy. And I bet I don't have my certificate installed, which is fun. Another thing we have to be careful with as well is you don't want to hack a site that's well, you don't want to hack stuff in general unless you have authorization, but you also don't want to do anything that could be perceived as hacking, because a lot of times what can occur is that they will take advantage of a vulnerability in a legitimate site and utilize that to host payloads. For instance, one time I saw a poke bowl place. They had their website compromised and they were serving malware out of that. And I saw that when I was working in a SOC. You could see that every time a person visited, it attempted to do some sort of attack, JavaScript-based attack on that particular person. So you don't want to negatively impact something if that is the case. But if you do find like if we identify that this website was like hacked, we could reach out and notify them, hey, your website's popped. You should probably roll it back or do something about it. So what we do see is that it is redirecting us for sure, because it was a slash either, and it's forwarded us to this other page, the suspend page. So that's one thing of note. So we look at this. This all looks fairly normal. There's nothing crazy here. We see the path we're trying to get to. There's nothing of interest to me anyways here. And then we get it redirects us. We get this page now. There's also nothing really of interest here either. So that's kind of boring. Look at target, see if there's anything here. One thing I would be curious about is if there are any other live pages on the site, and to see what's hosted on those. So we keep having the same media image here, and it's probably this thing in the background. And that's pretty much all we see. No other code in here. Nothing super of interest. We can look at all these pages as well. 302, document is temporarily moved. The problem with a lot of this stuff as well, it's dynamic in nature. So let's see. Let's take it back to the base domain and see what we can see. And we may do just a basic scan to see if there are any other pages with common names. So it's slash, and it's only in Pro. I don't want to load my Pro version here. We could use another tool like Durbuster, Derby, GoBuster. There's a bunch of tools like that in Kali, and I'll just go through and see if there are any other legitimate pages here. But again, like definitely want to give pause and think about the impact you may have on the organization. So in a pen test, I'd be trying, and I paused because I thought about doing it, but I'm not going to do it. In a pen test, you think about trying to guess passwords. A lot of these have default passwords and usernames in here, but we won't do that. Same with this. You check all these interfaces just to see if there's anything of interest. Like this may or may not actually be a cPanel. You never know because you could mask your stuff to be anything. So I like to look at the source code for a lot of stuff. Look at this, Internet Explorer 11. Who's using that? I don't play with cPanel enough to know if this is normal. Maybe. You never know what you find in these either. I've done a hospital where I looked at I think it was their benefits page internally, and they had their username and password for the administrator in the source code. So you never know what kind of goodies are in here. Especially logic as well. Sometimes it's just interesting logic and you can subvert it. Obviously, we're not going to do that because we don't have permission to be doing any of this stuff. But we can look at the source code. There's no harm in that. Just looking to see if there are any interesting functionalities in here. This one seems to be about form resets stuff. See a lot of references to time zones in these two lines. This looks like it's handling the actual form itself. Blue's probably horrendous on your eyes. See a little bit of regex here. Yep, nothing super cool there. So this baddie may have changed domains pretty quick. You can also do a quick Google. See if anyone else has seen it. This is just because I'm intercepting. Let me turn that off. I'll turn this off. It's just a pain clicking. I could modify settings to change that, but gadget fix zone. So these are all different. Well, this is a different domain. There's not a ton of results for it. Which is suspect. I wonder what the website is for this guy, but it probably won't let me in because I'm not logged into Facebook. Nope. Oh, interesting. So they do put their website here. So it could be, so this is 2023 was the last update. So it could be where it was an age domain that they took over and utilized it for phishing. Because you can't really do much with it now. So it looks like he was fairly active at one point. So that's interesting. All right, now let's see if we can find something else. I just got one. It looks very similar. So this one says, and I'll do a screenshot and bring it over. Let's see if it'll let me. I doubt it'll let me post this one in here. Open image from clipboard. Let's save it. Save. All right. Bringing it on over. So this is what this one looks like. So looks fairly normal, right? From New York, unsubscribe, OpenSea.io. But the funny thing with this one is that all the links, the OpenSea link works, but every other link points to exact same thing. So this is this link. And every other one is this one. So we can drop that in VirusTotal and take a peek. What's the other Wayback Machine one? Wayback is what I usually play with. This one also comes back as clean, newly registered. So this is what I mean, where a lot of more sophisticated people, especially red teams and threat groups, they don't ever use newly registered websites because it automatically seems suspect. So that's interesting. Already off the rep. This one came in today, I believe. So that's fun. Let's throw it over here in this URL scan. Motorcycles. Are scooters motorcycles? That looks like a bike. That looks like a motorcycle. More motorcycles. Always am unsure of whether they want you to get the edge of it. But I've also heard that when you do this, you're training Google's AI on image recognition as well. All right, let's see what we have here. India. I love when people from India send me stuff. What's interesting here, you can see, is that there's no classification. So that's kind of suspect in its own right. We're just looking through here to see what all was being sent. See these different pages. Play Google. You're getting some 301s, 302s here. I need to set up a spam inbox and just register for all these crappy sites just to get some stuff to play with. So nothing of particular interest here. Indicators. So one thing you can look at, like if you're an analyst, you'd look at all these different IPs to see if they're going anywhere cool. I'm more concerned with the flow of information, like what websites are these things going to, and what's the flow of I was going to say transactions, but URL or web requests. We want to see that flow. I'm curious now if this goes anywhere. Oh, there's a. Is the guy considered the bicycle? I don't know. I don't know. Give it a shot. See if it will. See if it will. Only one way to find out, Philip. So this is the cool part about URL scan is you'll get screenshots. So you can see what it actually looks like on the site without visiting. So that's cool. Looks like we got another image here as well. Oops. Go back. Go back to summary and see if it turns up anything cool. So what I'm really looking for when I look at this stuff is just suspicious looking code of some sort. And I'm just kind of glancing at stuff to see privy wallets. That's kind of interesting. I'm not really sure what this is. or how it works, but I have seen where, and this isn't the case on this one, unless this website happens to have a crypto miner installed, but you'll see sometimes with different malware, different miners, they'll have a crypto wallet address that they're mining and sending it to. It's like insanely inefficient to mine crypto through a browser, but you know, to each their own. I wish I would find something cool to play with. A lot of wallets here. This is all kind of interesting, actually. A lot of stuff related to wallets and subscriptions, and not just at this site itself, Wallet Connect. And these are security headers. So they may, and this is just suspicion, and it may or may not be true. It could be they're expecting you to be logged into one of these other sites first. And then when you click the link that'll ride the cookie, or ride that information. Or they have a some kind of issue they found with the website, or they can pass that information out. They like funnel that information through the request for the website you are logged into back to them. There's some fun ways to do that. So this was for the OpenSea site. This could be a cross-site request forgery, perhaps. Who knows? I'm trying to think about which one I want to pursue. Because this was only, the OpenSea one was only in the email once, where all these, the Dove domain is in there everywhere else. I'm like looking through it now. Yeah, it's got to be this Dove one is the, this has got to be the malicious one here, because this is in there a lot more. This one is actually in there twice. Let's see if we can find another URL sandbox. There's one I used to do, hybrid analysis. We might be able to do that instead. Be able to play with it. I don't want to register. I hate when they make me register for stuff. It's very annoying. Did we look up this guy? We did. See if there's anything in the community about it before. No, dang. can do the same thing we did before. Ish. The only thing that comes back is Deb Lewis. This could be typo squatting. Or maybe not. I mean, it is very, very darn close. Like, well, the top level domain's different, but it's very close to that one. But it's interesting. It hasn't been seen before. That's interesting. All right, let's try that again. And we'll turn our proxy on. And then we'll see what it's doing. Nothing crazy. We get a redirect. We happen to have seen that before. This one doesn't like us. See if that one happens to be over here. I always forget. I doubt it's going to be in Shodan. Shodan doesn't work as good as it used to. This one. It used to be amazing. Then they started putting defenses in place, and it hasn't been working as well with those. Like, it used to be very difficult to stop Shodan from scanning you, and now the tools have just gotten better. Kind of want to decode this URL now and see what it is. Smart decode, see if it does anything for us. So we still see some base 64 in there for sure. Let's see if I can figure out where, probably here. Let's do CyberChef instead. So CyberChef is a fun little tool if you hadn't played with it, and allows you to decode stuff pretty quick. So the problem is that it's interpreting all of this as base 64, and we don't want to do that. Some of there is URL encoding as well, and so we need to make sure we get the URL decoding done. So let's pull this all the way up here. Looks like there's 3 parameters. So it could just be like legit encoded, like something encrypted, perhaps. Even though it looks like it's base64, it could just be encoded to pass it through the browser. So base64 encoding is used a lot in web requests because it makes it submittable without messing it up. I'm curious. So who knows what's in that? We can try a smart decode, see if that does anything. What you got, magic here? It's got medium entropy. Doesn't have any recipes. It didn't find anything. That's interesting. All right, let's go back to burp and see if there's anything fun in here. So this is our news site here. If this was like a client and I had a contract with them, I'd be a lot more intrusive than I am here. But I don't want to break any laws live on TV or ever, really. Not worth it. So I'm being careful what I get into. Again, take a peek at headers. See if there's anything fun in here. I don't think there is because we didn't see any prior. But that's the word I was looking for before. If the headers, there could be specific headers it's looking for, like a particular user agent. And if there isn't the one in there that it's looking for, it won't provide information back. But there isn't one in the URL. So I'm not sure. Let's see. Look up. This one is OpenSea phishing email. Let's see if anyone has some fun stuff on it. OpenSea email leak exposes 7 million users. That's fun. Oh, this is an NFT site. Oh, yeah. See, I'm stupid with crypto stuff. I don't ever pay attention to it. A lot of times we can look at other people's research and see if they have found anything cool. And it's usually like you click it and then it'll do something on your behalf on the website, which could be send someone your crypto or money or whatever. And again, that's probably like a cross-site request forgery. Or if they just do everything parameterized, you click it, then it uses your cookies you have stored in your browser to submit the request with your cookie, which basically, well, in some cases mean you're already authenticated, so you don't have to log in. So it's taking you there, and then it's going to do the request if it's parameterized. So that's fun. Oh yeah, this guy's saying they would drain the wallet. Yeah, that's fine. So it could be like what we're seeing with. Well, it's kind of interesting that we're seeing that one URL versus the Dove one. Maybe they're just really only want you to click the OpenSea one instead. Because even at the top in the picture, it's the Dove one, and there's only so the OpenSea. It doesn't have. Yeah, so there's only 2 links, so it's kind of weird that they either didn't do them all the same, or that all of them wouldn't be malicious, or at least some of them wouldn't lead to a normal domain to add to make it seem more normal. But what we're seeing in this could just be how it submits a transaction on your behalf. Could. Problem is we don't know the parameters, so we have underscore T, underscore M, underscore E. I think these are all the only parameters here. And yeah, we don't know what they are. They're not self-explanatory. And we'd have to interact with the website to figure out what exactly they did. I mean, these could be account numbers, maybe wallet numbers, whatever the site wants to call it. Who knows? Amounts. You'd have to have an account to figure it out. That's the problem with some of these. If you don't have that particular thing, you just don't know. Don't really care about those. I think they changed the way Magic works because it used to just give you a whole bunch of options of what it could be. My guess is that it's encrypted in some way, which would make sense. Few people use plain text stuff if it's sensitive information. It'd be encrypted before being sent out, and then it's decrypted server side. But we can see if it's something that's common. That's what this is doing, just trying out a bunch of different things to see if it can figure it out. And we're looking through to see if we see anything readable. If we see something readable, we know what it is. Gosh, why can't we find something cool that's easy to play with? There's another OpenSea one. So apparently I was targeted a couple of times with an OpenSea one. And Google won't Google won't let me click it on this one. Google is actually pretty good at picking up things, especially if it's not aged and when I used to do phishing for clients, I kind of stopped doing it because it's more cost effective for them to just use a platform that does it. They pay $100 a month. They can run as many phishing campaigns as they want, get metrics and all that. Much cheaper than you can pay a company to do a custom phishing campaign with C2 and all that. So a lot of either scan here. So all those could just be crypto ones. So I guess I don't really have anything cool in my inbox, which kind of sucks. Let me check another inbox. We'll do one more and play with one more, and then we'll hop off. I must have filtered your link, man. Here we go. What's this one? This one is from today. Joshua Jones. McAfee Gamer Security. Nope, sounds important. Give me some links. This was interesting because there's a phone number, so they're not even trying to get you to click it. They just want you to call in. That's no fun. How am I supposed to play if I can't? If I can't play? This one's in German. German. Oh, payment completed. Let's see. For LifeLock renewal services. No link, man. That's a good way to bypass filters too, I would say. Well, I guess this is in my spam filter regardless, but not putting any malicious links in there and just having them call would be a good way to bypass. Gosh, I don't even understand these languages. I got a lot for stuff. This one's to Elon Musk. New. Talking about keto and libido and all the things. And what's funny too, a lot of times when people mess with you, they'll do a click here to unsubscribe, and that's pretty normal, right? But they'll do a malicious link and the click here to unsubscribe. So that's a fun way to get people who are just pissed off at people sending them phishing emails. You just don't even think about it, like, just unsubscribe me, and then you get had. I'm so sad. I need to sign up for some sketchy stuff to get emails. Yeah, I don't have any more that look interesting. They're in foreign languages. I don't know what they are. Let's try this one. BlockFi. Nope. Yeah, I don't know. What we can do too is we can look on this and see if there's anything fun, any fun submissions in here. Malicious. Yeah, that's what I want. So they have a lot of, there's quite a few sites that track URLs related to different threat groups and malware strains. And these sites like this will check it against those. So this one was, what was it, Scam Advisor. So that's cool. Trust score. It's got a 1 for trust. I'd trust eBay stage 2.top. That sounds trustworthy to me. Let's see. Let's try this one. I'm trying to remember where all the wrong button. More details. This is what I want. Here we go. This is what I was looking for. What is this? Turkish? What's that flag? I have no clue. Singapore. Dang. Not even close. So this is kind of cool. Something I didn't point out before. You can see detected technologies. We use this in pen testing and stuff. See what kind of technologies. Look at the version numbers. Look for something that's vulnerable. Pretty common. You can look at certs. Look at these. This should be normal. This looks suspect. This one has a ton of redirects, 20. I want the hybrid analysis. What happened to it providing us analysis? I miss those days. It used to be like you go on VirusTotal, you look up a hash, and it would give you links. Ooh, excuse me. The hybrid analysis and other online sandboxes where you can look and see what information it found about it. So it really sped it up, especially if it could get a sample of the data. Or like in our case where the data is old, like the other one was almost a month old. But it would be in there because when they submitted the URL, it would do its thing and then preserve it for historical purposes. So those are fun. Wow, it really prevents you from seeing a lot of stuff. These were old tools we used to use, and now they're just cut your legs out from it. They don't give you anything anymore. Look at this. You have to sign in to do it. That sucks. It's by Falcon Sandbox. CrowdStrike. Yep. Makes sense. Yeah, Wapalizer is really good. Browser plugin. I like to use that. What's cool is I think that's actually what's built into, was it WAP? Oh, it's not in here. Zap is what I'm thinking of. So Zap's like a free proxy. It looks like they don't include it in here by default anymore, but Zap's a good time. And it uses Wapalizer as well. Wapalizer is good stuff. Gives you version numbers. And then you can see if you can find any issues with those versions. Bunch of fun stuff. I'm trying to think. I think there's a malware bazaar that's good now. Yeah, that's it. And what's cool about this one, Virus Total also puts tags and stuff, and it's usually done, I think, through the community. But Malware Bazaar does tags here, so you can see the threat groups like Mirai, Bot, if you're familiar with that, WannaCry. So there's some pretty cool stuff in here. We can click in and give it a peek. And you can actually download these samples too. Obviously, if it's flagged as WannaCry, you probably don't want to execute that on your system, or you might wanna cry. Dad joke. But we can look and see Joe Sandbox. That's the other one. Here we go. This is what I'm looking for. Let's see if Joe Sandbox is feeling giving like Santa Claus. It's been so long. I work purple team stuff and pen testing stuff, so I don't get into this as much as I used to. I want to see the report. I guess I have to click through this way. Just looks sketchy. I didn't want to click it. But this one usually does like a process tree, which is really cool. So you can see how it unwinds itself, which is fun. And you see this pop up quite a few places. And it looks like it picked it up based on signature of a DLL. Florian Roth. He's a big name in cybersecurity. Looks like he wrote some rules based off of the file itself and some headers, or looks like some strings, not headers, excuse me. This might be from a header, but these look like embedded strings. So that's cool. Sometimes it gives you more information here. I like stuff that I hate these. Like these charts are super cool. So this gives you like a really good idea of how it unwinds. So network traffic, a lot of these typically generate because they're going back out, pulling the full payload a lot of times. And what's good about these is you can see typically the full attack chain if it was successful in executing, unless there were sandbox detection, and then it may not fully unwind if it identifies that it is in a sandbox. It won't do that, and that just makes blue teamers' lives a little bit more difficult. So this looks like where this thing drops this payload. It looks pretty normal, doesn't it? Tasks sche.exe, that looks like a Windows one to me, but obviously the hash doesn't match. And we see this one quite a bit. I would, if I was doing this in a real environment, like for a client or at work, I'd be hooking up to a lot of things to look at the processes specifically. And the reason why you would do that would be to look for indicators that you can search for across the environment to see if anything else was infected. And it could be anything. So in this case, like an indicator for this, you could pretty readily use it in your EDR or any other type of tool where you can see files. You can look at like the particular file name that was flagged as malicious, see if it shows up anywhere. You can look for if there's a malicious domain. So we saw, I think it was up here, we saw where it had some reached out and pulled a file down. And you can look to see if anything else had reached out to that same place to pull files down. So you got hashes here. That's what you can search. And a lot of times the only reason why you do more advanced stuff, and a lot of organizations actually don't have people that are trained well in malware analysis. But the reason why you would, if it was an unseen one and no one had taken it apart before, you want to know what all it did. Did it take any data out of your environment? Did it wreck anything? You want to get that information so that you can properly recover from the attack. And then, of course, look for indications that it's executed on other places successfully. But a lot of times these types of things are pretty good, especially if it detonates. But some really well-written ones will not actually detonate in these because they have logic that looks to see if it's in a sandbox or in somebody's lab and it won't fully execute. So you do have to take it and play with the lab and play with things until you can get it to fire or look through the code yourself. Just depends on how sophisticated the adversary is, really, in terms of, and that determines how much effort you have to put into doing these things. Obviously, this has a lot of really good pieces here. So you shouldn't have to do a lot of additional work. That's cool. Here it is. Here's all the functions. Man, look at this. They're actually doing a lot of the malware analysis for you. So you can see the function calls yourself. You can see the Win APIs that it's calling here. So that's cool. I don't think it used to do this. But this is what you get from stuff like Ghidra or some other similar tools. You see the possible execution paths. See the functions. That's why they look funny, is because when you look at compiled code, and if it's not something like C# or something that decompiles fairly well, you just have general function names. And usually the analyst will go in there and change function names to something that's a little bit more human meaningful. Lots of cool stuff here. Yeah, that's fun. All right. I think that's what we'll get into today. I think that's it. Actually, let's play this real quick and we can see if it caught anything. And then we'll hop off. So a lot of this stuff you won't see on the desktop. Like ransomware, you would expect like the background to change because then it'll be like, hey, pay me money. A lot of the things are occurring with malware in the background. And it's meant to be subversive in nature. So sad. We didn't see a screen change here. I can't remember if WannaCry does that or not, though. But it may, I would say technically it shouldn't execute because I think the domain was registered that killed it. That was Mr. Hutchins did that way back when. So yeah, technically this shouldn't execute properly. So that would make sense. Cool. All right. I think that's it for me, Philip. Hopefully you had a little bit of fun. get a little bit of fun technical stuff in. And we'll set up a stream maybe same time next week and pop in here. Take it easy, man.